The sun rose slowly over the wide, green plains and the quiet, dense forests of ancient America. The air was soft and cool, carrying the scent of wet earth and wild flowers. Somewhere, a river meandered lazily, its water catching the light and glimmering like scattered silver pieces. In a small village, made of simple clay and wood huts, life was beginning. A young boy stretched and yawned, noticing the soft glow on the rooftops. Birds chirped, and the wind whispered through the leaves. His mother was already up, gathering soft grass and weaving small baskets. His father was tending to the fire, adding twigs and dry leaves, making sure the warmth lasted through the morning chill. Life was quiet, simple, and gentle. Here, people did not rush. Each movement was measured, deliberate. Every action had meaning, every task was a connection with the land and the family. And yet, life in this village was far from empty. It was rich with small, beautiful details, the soft humming of a mother, the gentle laughter of children, the rhythmic sound of water on stone. And now, dear listener, if you are enjoying this calm journey through time, you might want to gently tap the like button, or maybe leave a small comment. Sharing this story quietly with someone else might help them sleep too. And if you enjoy journeys like this, subscribing will keep more stories coming softly to your ears. The villagers moved slowly through their day. Women prepared soft food, made from corn, beans, and squash, often cooking over small fires. Children watched carefully, learning the ways of their parents without hurry, their tiny hands reaching to help here and there. Men stepped lightly into the forests and along the riverbanks, checking traps and guiding small flocks of animals toward gentle pastures. Every action was part of the rhythm of life. Sometimes, the village would pause, listening to the soft wind, noticing the clouds moving gently over the trees. The sounds of the world around them were not ignored. They were part of the story, part of the learning. The elders often said that the river speaks if you listen quietly, and the wind carries stories from far away. By mid-morning, the village would settle into a gentle hum. Some women were weaving fibers into soft cloth or baskets. Children were playing quietly, running along the riverbank or helping to gather small fruits. The elders sat in circles, telling stories to anyone who would listen. These stories were long, sometimes lasting for hours, filled with simple lessons about the animals, the seasons, and the stars. Sometimes, the story would pause, and a soft message would float in. If you like these gentle journeys, you may want to share this peaceful story or subscribe for more. It was not loud, not urgent. Just a gentle nudge in the calm flow of the day. In the afternoons, some villagers would move to the fields, carefully tending crops that would feed the village in weeks to come. Corn grew tall in straight lines, beans clung to wooden frames, and squash spread its large, soft leaves across the earth. The work was gentle but steady. There was no rush, no need to finish quickly. Each task was completed as the sun moved across the sky, slowly, softly, deliberately. Sometimes a deer would wander close to the village, and the children would watch quietly from the shadows, learning patience and respect. Hunters taught them that the forest gives what is needed, if you are gentle and observant. They would whisper stories about the animals, about the soft rustle of leaves, and the way a bird flies silently through the morning air. Evening came gently. Fires were lit, their soft light flickering across the walls of huts. The air cooled, carrying the scent of smoke and earth. Families gathered together, sharing simple food and small stories. The world outside slowed, the river became silver again, and the wind whispered softly through the trees. And here, dear listener, you might remember again to leave a quiet like or a small comment if you enjoy these gentle tales. Or softly subscribe so the next story comes to you in the same calm way. As night deepened, the village became almost entirely silent. Only the distant sounds of the river and the soft breathing of animals were heard. The boy in the hut lay down, listening to the gentle night, feeling safe in the rhythm of life. Outside, stars began to appear, soft and calm, like tiny lanterns in the sky. The elders whispered stories of the constellations, the cycles of the moon, and the gentle guidance of ancestors who watched over them. The village slept slowly, peacefully, and the gentle world outside seemed to fold them into a soft, endless dream. The sun climbed higher, but its warmth was gentle, never harsh. Light filtered through the leaves, creating soft patterns on the ground. Shadows moved slowly, almost lazily, as if the land itself was breathing in a calm, steady rhythm. In the village, there was no rush. People moved the way the river moved, forward, but without hurry. A group of women sat together near the shade of a large tree. Their hands moved slowly as they wove plant fibers into baskets and simple cloth. The sound of the fibers brushing against each other was soft and repetitive, almost like a quiet lullaby. They spoke very little. When they did, their voices were low and calm, blending into the sounds of birds and wind. Children sat nearby, watching. Sometimes they helped. Sometimes they simply listened. Learning happened without effort. No one told the children to hurry, to finish, to compete. They learned by being present, by watching the hands, by feeling the rhythm, by listening to the soft stories that floated gently from one adult to another. Along the river, a few men stood quietly with fishing tools made from bone and wood. They did not speak much either. They watched the water carefully, noticing small ripples, slow movements beneath the surface. Fishing was never loud. It was patient. It was respectful. When a fish was caught, it was held gently. A quiet moment followed. A small pause of gratitude. Nothing dramatic. Just a calm acknowledgement of life continuing. If you are still listening, still awake but drifting, you might gently like this story, or leave a quiet comment later. And if you want more long, peaceful journeys like this, subscribing will let them come to you again and again, without effort. The day continued. In the fields, corn leaves moved softly in the breeze. Beans wrapped themselves around wooden supports, growing slowly, steadily. Squash plants spread wide across the soil, their large leaves protecting the earth beneath from the sun. Farming here was not forced. The people believed the land already knew how to grow food. Humans were only helpers, guides, gentle partners. An elder walked slowly through the fields, touching leaves, checking soil with calm, experienced hands. He had done this for decades. His movements were slow, careful, almost meditative. Children followed him quietly, learning without questions, without pressure. From time to time, the elder would tell a story. A very simple story. About a season long ago. About a flood that taught patience. About a drought that taught sharing. The stories were never rushed. Sometimes they ended without a clear ending. Sometimes they repeated parts already told many times before. No one minded. Repetition was comforting. By midday, the village felt warm and still. Some people rested. Others continued light work. A few lay in the shade, listening to the world. Sleep was not controlled by clocks. If the body wanted rest, rest was allowed. This was how balance was kept. Near one of the huts, a healer prepared herbs. Roots were laid out carefully. Leaves were crushed slowly between stones. The smells were earthy and calming. The healer hummed softly, almost unconsciously. Medicine here was slow. There was no rush to cure. No panic, no fear. Healing was a process, just like growing crops or weaving baskets. The healer believed the body already knew how to return to balance. Herbs, touch, and calm presence simply helped it remember. A young woman sat nearby, learning, not through instruction, but through observation. She watched the hands. She listened to the humming. She felt the patience in every movement. If someone was sick, they were never left alone. Someone always sat nearby. Someone always listened. Someone always waited. As the afternoon moved on, the sounds of the village softened even more. Fewer footsteps. Fewer voices. The wind picked up slightly, brushing through trees and tall grass, carrying distant scents of water and soil. Time felt wide, unmeasured, unimportant. The people did not count hours. They followed light, hunger, tiredness, and comfort. A group of children walked slowly toward the edge of the forest with an older hunter. Not to hunt, but to learn. He showed them how to walk quietly, how to place feet without breaking twigs, how to notice birds suddenly becoming silent. They stopped often. They waited. They listened. Sometimes nothing happened. That was also a lesson. In this world, silence was not empty. Silence was full. As the sun began its slow descent, long shadows stretched across the ground. The air cooled slightly. Fires were prepared again, not quickly, not urgently. The village felt safe, predictable, steady. And if you feel your eyes growing heavy now, that is exactly how this story is meant to feel. You can relax. You can let the voices fade. And if you remember later, you can always support the story with a like, a comment, or a subscription. But for now, rest is more important. As evening approached, the people gathered slowly, naturally, without being called. Food was shared again. Simple, warm, familiar. No one spoke loudly. No one interrupted. The world felt smaller, softer, closer. And as the sky began to change color, the village settled into another quiet night, ready for more slow stories, more gentle days, and the endless, calming rhythm of life 5,000 years ago. The sun sank lower, slowly, almost reluctantly, as if it did not want to leave the land just yet. The sky softened into shades of pale orange and gentle blue. Shadows grew long and thin, stretching across the earth. The air cooled, becoming comfortable and calm. This was the favorite time of day for the village, not because anything special happened, but because everything slowed even more. Small fires began to glow one by one. Not all at once, not loudly, just gently. Thin streams of smoke rose into the evening air and disappeared into the quiet sky. The smell of wood and earth mixed together, creating a familiar comfort that wrapped itself around the village. People gathered near the fires naturally. No one called them. No signal was needed. Bodies simply moved toward warmth and light, the same way they had for generations. Food was prepared slowly. Corn was roasted. Beans were warmed. Small pieces of fish or meat were shared carefully. No one ate too much. No one took more than they needed. Eating was calm, almost silent. Children sat close to their parents. Some leaned against warm shoulders. Some played quietly with small stones or pieces of wood. Their movements grew slower as tiredness settled in. An elder cleared his throat softly. No one rushed him. When he began to speak, his voice was low, steady, and unhurried. His story was not new. It was a story everyone had heard many times before. And still, everyone listened. He spoke of the land. He spoke of the river that never stops moving, even when it seems still. He spoke of the trees that stand quietly, watching generations pass. He spoke of the animals that give life so others may live. His words were simple. There were no big lessons, no dramatic moments, just reminders. The elder reminded them that the land was alive, that it listened, that it remembered, that humans were guests here, not owners. As the fire crackled softly, people nodded gently. They did not need to agree or disagree. These ideas were already inside them. The stories simply brought them to the surface again. If you are still awake, listening softly, you may want to remember this moment. And later, if it feels right, you can support this peaceful space by liking, commenting, or subscribing. But for now, there is no need to do anything at all. The stories continued. Another elder spoke next, slowly repeating parts of the first story. Repetition was welcome. Familiar words felt safe, predictable, comforting. He spoke of ancestors, not as distant figures, but as quiet presences. Ancestors were believed to walk beside the living, to sit near the fires, to listen, to guide without speaking. No one feared them. Ancestors were gentle. They were believed to appear in dreams, in the movement of leaves, in the sudden calm of the river at night. As darkness deepened, the stars began to appear, one by one, soft points of light in the vast sky. Children pointed quietly. Elders named a few patterns, but not all. Some stars were left unnamed. Mystery was allowed. Not everything needed explanation. The people believed the sky was alive too. The moon was not just a light. It was a watcher, a guide for planting, resting, traveling, and dreaming. When the moon was full, ceremonies were gentle and quiet. When it disappeared, people rested more, spoke less, and listened more. Religion here was not loud. There were no temples, no strict rules, no fear of punishment. Belief was soft, woven into daily life like a slow breath. Prayer did not require words. Sometimes it was just sitting quietly. Sometimes it was touching the ground. Sometimes it was sharing food. As the night grew deeper, some people returned to their huts. Others stayed by the fire a little longer. The sound of insects filled the air, steady and soothing. Inside one hut, a family lay close together. The fire's glow flickered gently on the walls. A mother whispered a story, not to teach, not to warn, but simply to calm. The story drifted, slowed, and eventually faded into silence. The child's breathing became slow and steady. Outside, the village rested. The river continued to move, unseen but heard. The trees stood quietly. The stars watched. And if your eyes are heavy now, that is exactly as it should be. You don't need to remember every word. You don't need to follow every thought. Just let the story carry you gently forward. The night in ancient America was long, peaceful, and forgiving. And tomorrow, the sun would rise again, slowly, patiently, just as it always had. The night had fully settled over the land. The fires burned lower now, their flames small and steady. Most of the village was asleep. Only a few quiet sounds remained, the gentle chorus of insects, the distant flow of the river, and the occasional soft crack of cooling wood. The air was cool, but not cold. Inside the huts, people lay wrapped in simple coverings made from woven fibers and animal skins. Bodies rested close together, sharing warmth and comfort. Breathing slowed. Thoughts faded. Sleep came naturally here. No one fought it. No one resisted it. Dreams were welcomed. The people believed dreams were important, but not urgent. Dreams were messages, but gentle ones. They did not demand action. They simply whispered ideas, feelings, and memories. An elder once said that dreams were the place where the ancestors spoke softly. So softly that only sleeping minds could hear them. In one hut, a woman stirred slightly. She had been feeling unwell for several days, not sick enough to worry, not healthy enough to ignore. Her dreams were slow and full of water. rivers, rain, soft flowing movement. In the morning, she would visit the healer. Not for medicine right away. First, she would speak about her dream. Healing here always began with listening. The healer believed that the body spoke in many ways, through pain, through tiredness, through dreams. Herbs were important. Yes, touch was important. But patience was most important of all. During the night, the healer slept lightly, as healers often did. They believed their dreams mattered not just for themselves, but for the village. If a healer dreamed of storms, they paid attention. If they dreamed of calm water, they smiled quietly. Near the edge of the village, a dog lifted its head briefly, listening to something unseen. Then rested again. Animals were trusted here. If animals were calm, the people knew all was well. Time moved slowly. There were no hours, no minutes, only night. And if you were still listening, drifting somewhere between waking and sleep, you are doing exactly what the story is meant to do. You don't need to focus. You don't need to remember. Just let the words pass gently through you. In ancient America, illness was never rushed away. If someone had pain, the healer would first sit with them, sometimes for a long time, sometimes in silence. A hand might rest gently on a shoulder or forehead. Breathing would slow together. Herbs were chosen carefully. Some plants were for pain. Some were for rest. Some were simply for comfort. The healer knew which plants calmed the body and which calmed the mind. Leaves were crushed slowly. Roots were boiled gently. Nothing was forced. Healing was not about winning against sickness. It was about restoring balance. The people believed that when balance returned, health followed naturally. As the night deepened further, clouds drifted slowly across the sky, covering some stars and revealing others. The moon watched quietly, half hidden, patient. Sleep wrapped the village like a blanket. Some dreamed of animals walking calmly beside them. Some dreamed of ancestors sitting near the fire. Some dreamed of nothing at all. All dreams were accepted. There were no bad dreams, only messages not yet understood. In the deepest part of the night, when even insects grew quieter, the village felt suspended, neither awake nor fully asleep. This was the time the elders said the world breathed the slowest. It was the safest time. The land rested. The people rested. The spirits rested. And you, listening now, can rest too. You don't need to like or comment right now. That can wait. If you remember later, that's enough. For now, just stay here. In this quiet place, letting your body soften and your thoughts slow. Soon, very slowly, the night would begin to loosen its hold. But not yet. For now, there was only darkness, comfort, and the steady rhythm of life 5,000 years ago, moving gently forward, without urgency, without sound. The night slowly began to thin. Not suddenly, not clearly, just a gentle change in the darkness. The sky remained dark, but it no longer felt heavy. The air carried a quiet expectation, as if the land itself knew that morning would come, eventually. In its own time. In the village, most people were still asleep. Breathing was slow. Bodies were relaxed. Dreams drifted quietly. Before dawn was a special time. The elders believed it was the moment when the world was most honest, when nothing was hidden by light or activity. This was the time when thoughts settled, when the mind was open and calm. A few people woke naturally, not because they had to, just because their bodies were ready. They stepped outside their huts quietly, careful not to disturb anyone. The ground felt cool beneath their feet. The sky above was deep and wide, dotted with fading stars. They stood silently, listening. This quiet time was not for work. It was for presence. For noticing small things, the way the air felt, the way distant water sounded, the way the earth smelled before sunrise. Children learned even now. Some children woke early too, following adults without words. No one explained why they were outside. No one needed to. Learning did not always come from instruction. Sometimes it came from simply standing still. If you are still listening, still drifting, this is a good moment to let your breathing slow even more. There is nothing you need to do. Just let the story move at its own pace. As the first hint of light appeared far on the horizon, birds began to stir. One call, then another, soft and distant. The village remained quiet, wrapped in this gentle transition. Education here was never separated from life. Children learned patience by waiting. They learned observation by watching. They learned respect by listening. There were no lessons about time. But children learned its value by feeling it pass slowly. There were no lessons about nature, but they learned its language by living within it. As dawn approached, some adults began preparing for the day, not quickly, not loudly. A small fire was rekindled. Water was brought from the river. Movements were smooth and familiar. Children helped naturally. A small hand passed a piece of wood. Another carried a simple bowl. No praise was needed. No correction was harsh. Mistakes were allowed. Mistakes were part of learning. An elder sat nearby, watching quietly. He did not interrupt. He did not instruct unless necessary. He believed knowledge settled best when it was not forced. Stories would come later. Stories always came later. As the sun finally touched the edge of the land, light spread gently across the fields and trees. Dew glistened on leaves. The world looked soft, almost new. This was how each day began. Not with urgency, not with noise, but with calm repetition. Repetition was comforting. The people believed that doing the same simple things each day was not boring. It was grounding. It reminded them that life continued. That balance remained. Children learned this too. They learned that life did not need constant change to be meaningful. That safety lived in routine. That peace came from familiarity. As the village slowly woke fully, soft voices returned. Fires warmed. Food was prepared again. Another gentle day began, much like the one before it. And the one before that. And if your mind is drifting now, if your thoughts are slowing, that is exactly how this part of the story is meant to feel. You don't need to remember these words. You don't need to follow them closely. Later, if you wish, you can support this quiet space with a like, a comment, or a subscription. But right now, rest is more important. 5,000 years ago, life moved slowly. And for a while longer, so can you. Morning had fully arrived now. The sun sat low but steady in the sky, warming the land without urgency. Light rested softly on the village, touching roofs, trees, and open fields in the same familiar way it had done for generations. People moved into their daily work slowly, not because they were tired, but because speed was never necessary. A few men walked toward the forest path, carrying simple tools made from stone and wood. Their footsteps were quiet. They spoke only when needed, and even then, their voices were calm. Hunting was never rushed. It was a conversation with the land, not a race. Others moved toward the river again. Fishing tools were checked. Nets were repaired carefully. Each knot was tied the same way it had always been tied. Hands remembered what to do without thought. Women gathered near the center of the village. Some prepared food. Some wove baskets. Some tended to children. These tasks blended together naturally. No one felt separated from the others. Work was shared, and so was time. Children moved between adults, helping where they could, watching when they could not. They learned the shapes of tools, the sound of water against stone, the feeling of plant fibers in their hands. Learning continued quietly. If you are listening now, you might notice your own thoughts becoming slower, softer. There is no need to hold on to any one image. Let them drift. Let the rhythm carry you. Social bonds here were not loud. Friendship did not need constant words. Family did not need constant attention. People felt connected simply by being near one another, by working side by side, by sharing silence. An older woman sat near a hut, repairing a woven mat. A younger woman sat beside her, watching, then slowly copying her movements. No instruction was spoken. No correction was rushed. Learning happened in stillness. Nearby, an elder spoke quietly with a hunter. The conversation was slow, full of pauses. Sometimes neither spoke at all. Silence was comfortable. It was not something to fill. The people believed that words lost meaning if used too often, so they chose them carefully. As the day moved on, the village felt steady and predictable. There were no surprises, no sudden changes, and that was comforting. Predictability meant safety. People knew where to be. They knew what was expected. They knew they were needed. Even children felt this sense of belonging. They were never ignored. They were never pushed away. Their presence was accepted as part of the village's rhythm. At midday, work slowed naturally. Some rested in the shade. Some drank water quietly. Some simply sat and watched clouds move slowly across the sky. Rest was not something to earn. It was something to listen to. If your body feels heavy now, if your breathing is slow, let it be. This story is meant to match that feeling. In ancient America, social order did not come from rules written down. It came from habits repeated every day, from kindness shown quietly, from respect given without being asked. Disagreements happened, but they were small and brief. Voices were rarely raised. Elders listened. Time softened everything. As afternoon light shifted, people returned gently to their tasks. The rhythm resumed without effort. No one needed to organize it. It simply happened. The land supported them. They supported each other. And together, they moved through the day in calm, familiar harmony. As you continue listening, you may drift further into rest. That is perfectly fine. The village will continue whether you are awake or asleep. The story will keep flowing softly. Just like life did 5,000 years ago. The afternoon moved forward without anyone noticing exactly when it happened. Light shifted gently. Shadows changed their shape. The air stayed calm. In the village, hands were busy, but never rushed. Near one hut, a man sat on the ground with a smooth stone in his hand. In front of him lay another stone, carefully chosen days earlier. He struck it slowly, patiently, shaping it bit by bit. The sound was soft and rhythmic. Tap, pause, tap. Tool making took time. A lot of time. No one expected it to be fast. A tool was not finished in one sitting. Sometimes it took days. Sometimes longer. Each strike was careful, thoughtful, and unhurried. Nearby, a young boy watched. He did not ask questions. He did not interrupt. He simply watched the movement of the hands, the angle of the stone, the patience in each pause. This was how skills were passed on, not with words, but with quiet presence. Across the village, women worked with clay. Soft earth was shaped into simple bowls and vessels. Fingers moved slowly, smoothing rough edges, pressing gently, turning the clay again and again. The process was calming. Round. Smooth. Repeat. Some vessels would be used for water. Some for food. Some would crack and be discarded. That was accepted. Not everything needed to last forever. If you are listening now, you may notice how repetitive this feels. That is intentional. Repetition is what allows the mind to rest. You don't need to hold on to any image. Just let it pass. Like the sound of water, weaving continued nearby. Plant fibers were pulled, twisted, and crossed. Over and over again. The same motion. The same rhythm. Hands moved almost on their own. A woman hummed quietly, not a song with words, just a soft sound that matched her breathing. Others worked beside her in silence. The hum filled the space gently, without demanding attention. Crafts here were not about decoration. They were about usefulness, balance, care. Beauty came from simplicity. Children sometimes tried to help. Sometimes they tangled the fibers or pressed the clay too hard. No one corrected them sharply. Mistakes were allowed. They were part of learning. An elder once said that hands learn faster than minds. So people trusted their hands. As the afternoon stretched on, finished items were set aside. Tools, baskets, mats, and bowls rested quietly in the shade. There was no pride in displaying them. No urgency to show them to others. They would be used when needed. That was enough. The village felt steady and full, not busy, not empty, just complete in its quiet activity. A light breeze moved through the huts, carrying the smell of earth and wood. Somewhere, a bird called once, then fell silent again. Time felt slow, very slow, and if you feel yourself drifting, maybe forgetting parts of the story, that is good. That means your mind is beginning to rest. The story does not need to be followed closely. As evening slowly approached again, tools were put away gently. Hands were washed in the river. Clay dried quietly. Woven fibers rested. Nothing dramatic marked the end of work. It simply faded. The people stood, stretched slowly, and moved toward familiar places. Another cycle of the day was closing, just like it had countless times before. And soon, the village would return to firelight, soft voices, and long shadows once more. You can let your eyes grow heavy now. The hands of the village have finished their quiet work. As evening approached, the village did not change suddenly. There was no signal, no announcement, no clear moment when day became night. Light simply softened. People understood this time without words. Work slowed naturally. Movements became smaller. Voices grew quieter. Social order here was invisible. There were no written rules. No spoken laws repeated loudly. Yet everyone knew what to do. Children knew where they belonged. Adults knew how to behave. Elders knew when to speak and when to remain silent. Respect was shown quietly. A younger person never interrupted an elder. Not because they were afraid, but because listening was valued more than speaking. When food was shared, elders were served first. Then children. Then everyone else. This order was not discussed. It was simply followed. If someone forgot, no one scolded them. A gentle look was enough. Shame was never used as punishment. Correction came softly. Disagreements happened sometimes. Two people might want the same tool. Two families might misunderstand one another. When this happened, voices stayed low. People did not gather to watch. Elders listened patiently. Each person spoke slowly, with pauses. No one rushed to be right. Time was the healer. If an agreement did not come immediately, it was allowed to wait. Sometimes a night of rest changed everything. The people believed anger burned itself out if given space. As you listen now, let your own thoughts do the same. There is no need to solve anything. Let everything soften. Community decisions were made together, often in silence. People sat in a loose circle. Some spoke. Some nodded. Some stayed quiet the entire time. Silence counted as agreement. Silence counted as wisdom. Children watched these moments carefully. They learned that power did not come from loudness. It came from calm presence. Even punishment was gentle. A person who broke harmony might be asked to sit alone for a while, not as isolation, but as reflection. They were not shamed. They were not threatened. They were trusted to return, ready to rejoin the group. Trust held the village together. As darkness settled fully, fires were lit again. The soft glow returned. Faces appeared warm and familiar in the flickering light. People gathered to eat. Food was simple, familiar, eaten slowly. There was no rush to finish. No distraction. Eating was part of togetherness. After the meal, people remained seated. Some spoke quietly. Some simply listened to the fire. Children leaned against parents. Elders rested their hands on their knees. This was social life. Not excitement. Not entertainment. Just presence. If your breathing is slow now, if your body feels heavy, allow it. This story is meant to settle you gently, like firelight settles a room. 5,000 years ago, society was built not on rules, but on rhythm. And rhythm was comforting. The fire burned low. Shadows stretched longer. One by one, people began to drift away toward sleep. Another peaceful day had passed. Night had fully settled over the land. The sky was dark and wide. Stars rested quietly above the village, scattered like slow-moving thoughts. The air felt cooler now, wrapping everything in calm. Fires burned gently, not bright, not strong, just enough. Around these fires, food was prepared for the final time that day. There was no hurry. A pot sat above the flames, suspended by a simple wooden frame. Inside, water warmed slowly. Roots, grains, and small pieces of dried meat were added carefully, one by one. Stir. Pause. Stir again. The smell was familiar. Comforting. The same scent the village had known for generations. Children watched quietly. Some leaned against adults. Some rested their heads on soft mats. Their eyes grew heavy as they followed the slow movement of the pot, the gentle rise of steam. Food was shared simply. Bowls were passed hand to hand. Each person took what they needed. No one took more than that. There was trust that tomorrow would bring food again. Eating was slow. Chewing took time. Swallowing took time. Silence filled the space between small sounds. This quiet eating helped the body relax. It told the mind that the day was ending. If you are listening now, let your jaw soften. Let your shoulders drop. There is nothing you need to hold up anymore. After eating, bowls were rinsed and placed aside. The fire was adjusted, made smaller. No one wanted it too bright at night. Light was meant to fade. People wrapped themselves in simple coverings made from woven fibers or animal skins. These were not heavy, just enough to hold warmth. Conversations slowed. Some spoke about small things. Some spoke not at all. There was no storytelling yet. That would come later, on certain nights. Tonight was for quiet. The village listened to the night. Crickets. Wind through trees. Distant water. These sounds were not distractions. They were reminders that the world continued beyond the firelight. An elder looked up at the stars, recognizing patterns passed down through memory, not as lessons, but as comfort. The sky always returned to the same shapes. Children were guided gently toward their sleeping spaces. No commands, just soft touches and familiar gestures. They lay down easily. Sleep came quickly. Adults followed soon after. One by one, bodies rested on mats or earth, close enough to feel safe, far enough to breathe easily. The fire dimmed further. Shadows melted into darkness. Another full day had completed its slow, peaceful circle. And now, nothing was expected. If your eyes are closed, that is good. If your thoughts are drifting, that is even better. You do not need to stay awake for the rest of this story. 5,000 years ago, nights were long and quiet, and sleep was welcomed without effort. The village was almost completely still now. Fires had burned down to soft embers. Light was faint. Shadows barely moved. Most people were asleep. Breathing rose and fell slowly across the village, like a gentle tide. The earth held their bodies calmly, without resistance. Night was not feared. 5,000 years ago, night was trusted. The people believed the dark was not empty. It was full of unseen movement, full of quiet meaning. They believed the world did important work while humans slept. Dreams mattered here. Not because they were exciting. Not because they predicted things. But because they were gentle messages from the inner world. People believed dreams helped the mind settle. They believed sleep allowed the spirit to wander safely and return refreshed. No one tried to control dreams. They were allowed to come and go freely. If a dream was remembered in the morning, it might be shared quietly. If it was forgotten, that was fine too. Forgetting was not loss. It was rest. Children slept deeply. Their bodies were warm. Their faces relaxed. Their hands unclenched. Adults slept too, trusting the village around them. No one stood guard every night. Safety came from togetherness, not constant watching. An elder remained awake a little longer. Not to protect. Not to think. Just to sit with the night. He listened to the wind moving through the trees. He felt the slow cooling of the air. He believed the night carried wisdom simply by existing. Eventually, even he lay down. The stars continued their slow journey overhead. If you are listening now, this is a good time to let go completely. There is nothing important left in this part of the story. Nothing that needs attention. The people believed that during sleep, the body healed itself. Small pains softened. Tired muscles relaxed. The mind released the day. Dreams drifted quietly. Like mist across a field. Some dreams were images. Some were feelings. Some were nothing at all. All were accepted. Night stretched on. Time moved differently now. Hours passed unnoticed. The village rested inside the land, not separate from it. The earth supported them. The sky covered them. The night wrapped them gently. And you can imagine yourself there too. Not watching. Not participating. Just resting. 5,000 years ago, sleep was not rushed. It was long, deep, and uninterrupted. There were no alarms. No urgency waiting in the morning. Only the slow promise of dawn, far away. For now, the world was quiet. And it stayed that way for a long time. The night reached its deepest point. There was no sound of work. No movement of people. No sense of direction. Only darkness. The village existed quietly within it, almost forgotten by time itself. Fires were now only memory, glowing faintly beneath ash. Everything rested. Breathing slowed even more. Thoughts faded. Dreams drifted without shape. At this hour, people believed the world stood perfectly balanced. Not moving forward, not moving backward, just still. No one measured time. There were no hours here. No minutes. No counting. Time was something felt, not tracked. The earth cooled beneath sleeping bodies, holding warmth gently, never stealing it. The air remained calm, as if even the wind had decided to rest. If you are still listening, it is okay to stop following the story now. The words are meant to blur together. They are meant to fade. Night sounds were few. A distant animal moved once, far away. Leaves shifted slightly. Then nothing again. Silence returned quickly. In deep night, the people believed worries could not survive. There was nowhere for them to go. No place for them to stay. Darkness softened everything. Even memories loosened their grip. Faces blurred. Names faded. Events lost their edges. Only the body remained, breathing calmly. Sleep deepened. The village no longer felt like a collection of people. It felt like a single, quiet presence resting within the land. No thoughts of tomorrow. No reflections on yesterday. Just now. Just rest. Stars continued to move slowly, unnoticed. The sky shifted in ways no one observed. The world changed gently without needing attention. If your mind drifts, let it drift. If images disappear, let them go. 5,000 years ago, deep night belonged to no one. It asked nothing. It gave rest freely. The people trusted this darkness. And so can you. The night remained still for a long time. Long enough for sleep to become complete. The village lay under a deep, soft night. The fires were nothing more than glowing embers now, faintly flickering. Their light barely touched the nearby huts. Only enough to make soft shadows on the walls. Every shadow moved slowly, almost imperceptibly, blending into the quiet night. People were asleep, bodies rested, hands unclenched, feet relaxed. Even the river seemed to move more slowly, carrying the soft reflections of stars on its calm surface. The water's sound was barely there, only a whisper. A soft murmur that became part of the village itself. At this time, people believed the body healed itself. Every breath helped. Every heartbeat repaired. Every muscle relaxed. The healer, who had worked slowly during the day, now slept too. But even in sleep, they trusted the flow of life around them. Herbs placed carefully earlier still gave gentle scents to the air. Roots, leaves, and small dried plants smelled softly, quietly, calming anyone nearby. The night was a healer itself. Every sound, every whisper of wind, every soft touch of earth worked slowly to restore balance. People didn't think about healing. They didn't rush it. They let it happen naturally. Even children slept deeply. They dreamed. They moved in small ways sometimes. Sometimes they stirred slightly, adjusting their blankets or shifting a hand, but they always returned to stillness. This was natural. This was normal. This was safe. The air smelled of soft earth, wood ash, and quiet water. Every inhalation was soothing. Every exhalation released tension. Muscles softened further. Mind loosened further. If you are listening, your own body may be responding too. Let shoulders drop. Let your hands rest. Let your legs sink into softness. Let your eyes close more fully. You do not need to hold on to awareness. You do not need to remember anything. Just rest. Sometimes. During these hours, the village seemed like it existed as one slow, breathing entity. Huts rose softly from the ground. People rested inside. Animals were calm. The wind moved gently. The river flowed softly. Even the trees swayed with barely perceptible motion. Everything worked together. Everything contributed to quiet balance. Time had no meaning here. It did not pass quickly. It did not stand still. It simply existed as a soft, unmeasured rhythm. The night hours were endless in their calm. The stars moved slowly across the sky. Sometimes clouds passed overhead, soft and quiet, covering the stars for a while. Sometimes the moon peeked from behind them. Its silver glow added gentle light to the land, barely noticed. Just enough to see shapes without disturbing sleep. The people believed dreams were important, but they did not need to be remembered. Dreams healed. Dreams rested. Dreams balanced the body, mind, and spirit. Some dreams were filled with images of the river. Some with animals moving slowly through the forest. Some with stars shifting in the sky. Some were simply blank, quiet, like a soft haze. All dreams were allowed. None were forced. None were judged. Even the healers' dreams were gentle. Sometimes they dreamed of soft sunlight on leaves, sometimes of flowing water, sometimes of quiet hands weaving fibers, slowly, over and over. The village itself seemed to breathe in these dreams. One long, slow breath, followed by another. Sometimes a gentle wind brushed the village, moving through the trees and across the rooftops. It carried a quiet sound, a low rustle, a soft murmur. Nothing startled anyone. No one stirred. Silence was not empty. Silence was filled with calm. Bodies rested completely. Thoughts dissolved into the night. Time became irrelevant. Only the slow rhythm remained. The healer's herbs. The faint firelight, the cool air, the gentle breeze, the slow river, the resting animals, the sleeping children, all contributed to the peace. If you are still listening, notice how soft the world has become. Notice how slow. Notice how quiet. Let your own breathing match this rhythm. Long, calm, steady. Soon, the first hint of dawn would arrive, but not yet. Now was for healing. Now was for rest. Now was for deep, quiet, uninterrupted sleep. And the village, 5,000 years ago, rested as it always had. Its people, its land, its water, its fire, its wind, all breathing together in one slow, gentle rhythm. You may drift now. You may sink deeper. There is nothing to hold on to, nothing to do, nothing to remember. Just the gentle presence of life, quiet and calm, carrying you forward into deeper sleep. The night had passed almost completely. Darkness softened into a faint, gentle gray. The stars, one by one, began to fade. The sky was still mostly quiet, mostly empty, but a new presence was arriving. Light, not harsh, not sudden, just soft, slow, careful light. The horizon brightened first. Pale gold stretched across the land, touching the tops of trees, the edges of huts, the surface of the slow, flowing river. The village remained still. People were still asleep, wrapped in soft coverings, breathing slowly, deeply, perfectly calm. The animals stirred gently. A bird flapped softly in the distance. The river made its usual low, gentle murmur. Even the wind seemed to pause before moving again. This was the first light of day. Not for hurry, not for work, not for any urgency. Just the quiet beginning of another cycle. Some people began to wake naturally. Their eyes opened slowly, like flowers unfolding. Their hands stretched gently. Their breathing adjusted to the day. There was no rush. No one called them. No one told them to rise. The sun itself seemed to encourage slow movement. The village moved together, softly. A child rose and walked to the river to drink, barefoot on cool soil. Water touched the lips, and the coolness spread slowly through the body. The river's song was soft and familiar. Nearby, elders prepared the first small fires of the new day. Flames flickered gently, warming nothing urgently, just enough to ease cold fingers and toes. The people began their morning tasks naturally. Women carried water. Children fetched simple tools. Men checked fishing nets and traps. All movements were calm, repetitive, comfortable. No one needed to hurry. The day would wait. The earth would wait. The river would wait. Education continued quietly. Children learned again, by watching, by moving slowly with the adults, by touching, feeling, practicing small motions repeatedly. Hands learned first. Minds followed. Patience was the teacher. Repetition was the lesson. Silence was the guidance. The village shared food again. Corn, beans, soft roots. Nothing extravagant. Simple, nourishing, comforting. No one rushed to eat. No one took more than they needed. Meals were slow. Meals were calm. Meals were gentle. As the sun rose higher, the land glowed softly. Shadows stretched, shifted, disappeared. The rhythm of life continued. Slow, predictable, safe. If you are listening now, allow yourself to drift with it. Let the story carry your mind toward the final rest. Let your breathing match the slow rhythm of the village. Long, steady, calm. The healer prepared herbs for those who might need them. Not urgently, not with hurry, just enough for comfort. For gentle healing, for balance. Tools and crafts were arranged again. Fibers woven, clay shaped, stones prepared for work. All repeated, all slow, all soothing. The first light of the day touched the river. The water reflected gold softly, slowly, gently. Children smiled quietly, just observing. Elders nodded. Adults moved with soft purpose. Everything was in harmony. Time no longer mattered. Tasks no longer pressured. Life simply flowed, like the river, like the wind, like the gentle movement of trees. You may now let your own thoughts drift completely. There is nothing to do, nothing to remember, nothing to achieve. 5,000 years ago, mornings were calm. Days were calm. Life was calm. And now, as the village begins this new day softly, you can rest fully. You can let your body relax completely. You can let sleep continue as long as it wants. The sun rises slowly. The river flows quietly. The trees sway gently. The village breathes in harmony. And you, a part of this quiet rhythm, carried softly into the peace of sleep. The sun had risen fully now. Light spread softly across the village. It touched the tops of the trees, the huts, and the river flowing slowly past. Shadows were long but gentle. The air was calm, almost still, carrying the faint smell of earth and water. The village stirred slowly. Not with hurry, not with noise, not with rush. Hands moved first. A woman picked up soft fibers and began to weave. The fibers bent, crossed, and twisted slowly, over and over. Each motion was careful, repetitive, soothing. A man prepared simple tools for the day's tasks. Stones were checked. Wooden handles smoothed. Edges inspected. The sound of tapping was soft, measured, rhythmic. Children followed adults quietly. They watched carefully. They mimicked slowly. They learned without words. Learning was not urgent. Learning was gentle. Learning was slow. Even the animals moved calmly. Dogs stretched and yawned. Birds hopped softly, calling quietly to one another. The river murmured. The wind moved gently through the leaves. The people gathered food for the morning. Corn, beans, roots. All prepared slowly, carefully. No one rushed. Everyone took only what they needed. Eating was calm. Eating was comforting. Eating was part of the rhythm. If you are listening now, allow yourself to match this rhythm. Long breaths. Soft exhalations. Shoulders relaxed. Muscles loose. Thoughts slowing. The elders observed the morning quietly. They spoke softly only when necessary. Their words were few. Their movements measured. They guided with presence, not command. Their example was enough. Children followed. Adults followed. Harmony continued naturally. Some villagers walked to the river to check nets and traps. Movements were deliberate, unhurried. Water splashed softly as hands moved slowly, retrieving what was caught, adjusting nets carefully, returning to the shore without hurry. The rhythm of life was evident in every action. The villagers knew their roles, their places, their responsibilities. But nothing was forced. Nothing was urgent. Everything was done with patience and care. Even the repetition of tasks was comforting. Weaving, cooking, fishing, tool making. Each action repeated softly, predictably. Each motion calming, hypnotic, steady. The sun climbed higher. But warmth did not push anyone into hurry. Light was gentle. Air was gentle. The day moved forward slowly, peacefully, comfortably. Children learned not by instruction, but by observation. They copied movements. They repeated gestures. They adjusted slowly. Mistakes were allowed, gently accepted. Learning was a quiet rhythm, flowing naturally with the day. If your mind is still awake, allow it to drift with this pace. Allow thoughts to become soft. Allow imagination to slow. Allow your body to sink deeper into relaxation. The river continued to murmur softly. Trees swayed slightly. Birds sang quietly. The world was calm, slow, and consistent. Even small, unnoticed details contributed to the peace. The smell of damp earth, the touch of soft air, the warmth of gentle sunlight, the faint crackle of distant fire. All of it reinforced stillness. All of it reinforced calm. And you, listening now, are part of this rhythm. Not moving, not forcing anything. Just resting. Just being. The village continued its morning tasks. Slowly, quietly, gently. And in that gentle flow, sleep could return. Deeper, softer, full of calm. No one competed. Each person took only what was needed. Sharing was natural. Giving and receiving were balanced. The village remained calm. Even disputes were quiet. If two people wanted the same tool, they waited. If two families needed the same path, they paused. Patience ruled. Time was abundant. Silence was respected. The rhythm of life was visible in the repetition of tasks. Hands moved. Fingers worked. Eyes observed. Minds learned without words. The sun climbed slowly higher. The day stretched ahead, predictable, safe, and gentle. And if your body is heavy, if your eyes are drooping, that is perfect. Let yourself sink deeper into rest. Let the rhythm carry you. Let the calmness absorb you. Life 5,000 years ago moved slowly. The day's rhythm was never rushed. The people trusted the process. The land trusted the people. And you can trust yourself to drift further into calm sleep now. The day moved quietly toward the middle. The sun was higher now, but it did not press down harshly. Its warmth was steady and familiar, spreading gently across the land. Shadows shortened, then rested, as if even they had decided not to move too much. The village slowed again. Midday was never a time for effort. It was a time for balance. Some people finished their small tasks and sat down in the shade. Others continued working, but more slowly than before. No one expected productivity now. No one counted progress. A group of children sat near an elder. They were not being taught in the way people teach today. There were no lessons. No explanations. No questions. The elder simply worked. He shaped a piece of wood slowly, scraping it with a smooth stone. The sound was soft and repetitive. Scrape, pause, scrape. The children watched his hands, the angle of his wrists. The patience in each movement. Learning happened quietly. One child picked up a small stick and tried to copy the motion. It was awkward. The shape was uneven. The elder did not correct him. He only continued working at the same pace. Eventually, the child adjusted on his own. This was how knowledge stayed gentle. Nearby, women sat weaving together. Their bodies leaned slightly forward. Their breathing was calm. Fibers crossed again and again in the same pattern. Over, under, pull, pause. The rhythm was hypnotic. If you are listening now, let your own breathing match this pace. Slow in, slow out. Nothing to hold, nothing to chase. The village felt suspended in time. No one watched the sun. No one waited for change. They trusted that change would come when it was ready. Some people lay down briefly, resting their eyes. Not sleeping deeply, just resting. The earth was warm beneath them. The air moved gently above them. Rest was not laziness here. Rest was part of life. Children drifted in and out of stillness. Some leaned against adults. Some lay on woven mats. Their minds wandered freely. No one demanded attention from them. The river continued its endless movement. Water flowed around stones it had always known. The sound was constant, soothing, predictable. Fish moved beneath the surface slowly, without disturbance. The people believed water taught patience. It never rushed. It never stopped. It simply continued. As midday passed, people stood again, slowly. Limbs stretched gently. Joints loosened. No sudden movement broke the calm. Work resumed lightly. A man repaired a net, knot by knot. A woman sorted gathered roots. An elder adjusted a fire, making it smaller. Every action was careful, measured, familiar. Social life remained quiet. There were no loud conversations. No laughter bursting suddenly. Instead, there were soft smiles. Gentle glances. Small acknowledgements that said more than words ever could. If someone passed by, they nodded. If someone needed help, it was offered without being asked. Community lived in awareness. Not announcement. The sun began its slow movement toward the west. Not noticeably. Not dramatically. Just enough to change the feeling of the air. And as the day leaned forward, the village remained steady, wrapped in its gentle rhythm. If your thoughts are drifting now, that is good. If the story feels distant, that is perfect. The village continues without needing your attention. 5,000 years ago, midday was quiet. And now, you can let that quiet carry you even deeper into rest. The day slowly leaned into afternoon. Not suddenly, not clearly. Just a gentle shift in the light. The sun moved slightly lower, and its warmth softened. Shadows stretched again, longer this time, reaching quietly across the ground. The air felt a little heavier, a little slower, as if the land itself was preparing to rest later on. The village noticed without thinking. People adjusted naturally. Work became lighter. Movements became fewer. Pauses grew longer. A man who had been shaping stone set his tools down and sat quietly, hands resting on his knees. He did not feel finished. He simply felt ready to stop. Nearby, a woman tied off the last knot in a basket and placed it gently beside her. She did not inspect it closely. She trusted her hands had done enough. Children wandered slowly through the village. They were not restless. They were not bored. They simply moved, touching familiar things, the edge of a hut, the smooth surface of a stone, the dry grass beneath their feet. One child followed an elder at a distance, copying his slow steps without realizing it. Step, pause, step. The rhythm of walking itself became a lesson. If you are listening now, let your own body feel heavier. Let gravity do its work. There is nothing you need to hold up anymore. Afternoon was a time for small tasks. Repairing a strap, sorting gathered plants, straightening a mat. Nothing important, nothing urgent. The people believed important things did not need to shout for attention. They revealed themselves slowly, over time. Near the river, water reflected the changing sky. Light shimmered softly on its surface. The sound of flowing water remained constant. Steady, familiar. Someone rinsed their hands there, slowly, letting the cool water run over their fingers. The sensation grounded them, brought them gently into the moment. Social life stayed quiet. People sat near one another without speaking. Presence was enough. No one felt pressure to entertain or explain. Silence connected them. A soft breeze moved through the village again, carrying the smell of grass, earth, and distant water. It brushed skin lightly, then passed on. The animals settled too. Birds called less often. Dogs lay in shaded spots, eyes half closed. Everything followed the same rhythm. Children began to grow sleepy without realizing it. Their movements slowed. Their voices softened. Some leaned against adults. Some lay down on mats in the shade. No one told them to rest. Rest arrived naturally. If your thoughts are slowing now, if words are beginning to blur, that is exactly how this part is meant to feel. As afternoon deepened, elders gathered briefly. Not to decide anything, not to plan, just to sit together. They watched the land quietly, trusting that life would continue as it always had. The sun continued its slow descent. Time felt wide and open. There was no waiting for evening, no anticipation, just the steady unfolding of the day. 5,000 years ago, afternoons were gentle bridges between activity and rest. And now, as this part of the story stretches softly onward, you can let yourself drift even further. The village does not need your attention. It knows how to continue on its own. Crescent moon, the afternoon slowly began to release its hold. Light changed again, not quickly, not sharply, just enough to be felt. The sun moved lower, closer to the edge of the land. Its warmth softened further, spreading gently rather than shining. Shadows lengthened once more, stretching quietly across the ground like slow-moving thoughts. The village felt this shift. People did not look at the sky to notice it. Their bodies already knew. Movements became fewer. Effort faded naturally. Work began to end. Not all at once. Not by decision. It simply slowed, and then stopped. A man carrying tools placed them gently beside a hut. He did not check them again. They would wait until tomorrow. There was no urgency to finish anything now. Women gathered the last small items from the day, fibers, bowls, baskets, and set them in familiar places. Each item returned to where it belonged, without thought, without effort. Children moved closer to the center of the village. Their energy softened. Their steps shortened. Their voices became quieter. Some held hands. Some leaned against parents. Some simply sat and watched the changing light. If you are listening now, let your own mind follow this soft descent. Let thoughts loosen. Let attention blur. Nothing important remains. Near the river, the water reflected the sky's deeper colors. Gold faded into orange, then into something softer, something harder to name. The sound of water remained unchanged, steady and calming. A few people rinsed their hands and feet, slowly, enjoying the cool touch. The sensation grounded them, signaling the end of effort and the beginning of rest. Fires were prepared again. Not lit fully yet, just ready. Small bundles of wood were placed nearby. Stones were arranged. Everything done with familiarity, repetition, calm. The people believed evening was a time to return inward. Thoughts softened. Speech slowed. Listening deepened. Elders sat quietly, watching the light fade. They did not speak. Their presence was enough. Children sensed the calm and mirrored it naturally. Animals settled. Birds quieted. Dogs curled into comfortable shapes. The village felt held, wrapped gently by the approaching night. No one worried about what was unfinished. Unfinished things could wait. They always did. If your breathing is slow now, if your body feels heavy, that is exactly right. The story is meant to carry you gently downward, like the sun sinking toward rest. As evening deepened, people gathered closer together. Not crowded, just near enough to feel warmth and familiarity. Someone adjusted a fire slightly. Flames flickered softly, casting long, slow shadows that moved lazily across the ground and walls. Light and darkness blended. The day did not end abruptly. It dissolved. 5,000 years ago, evenings were gentle thresholds, not endings, not beginnings, just a soft transition from doing to being. And now, as this part of the story continues, you can allow yourself to drift further into stillness. The village is ready for night. And soon, so are you. Evening settled fully now. The sun slipped beyond the land, leaving behind a sky that glowed softly for a while before darkening completely. Colors faded gently, without hurry, without sharp edges. Fires were lit. Not large, not bright, just enough to warm the air and hold back the cool night. Flames flickered slowly, moving in soft patterns that were familiar and comforting. Shadows stretched and swayed across the village, changing shape without urgency. People gathered near the fires. They sat close enough to feel warmth, but not so close that anyone felt crowded. Bodies relaxed naturally as they found familiar places on the ground or on woven mats. Conversations were few. Some spoke softly, in low voices. Some listened. Some did not speak at all. Silence was welcome. Children sat quietly, leaning against parents or elders. Their eyes followed the movement of firelight, blinking slowly, growing heavier with each moment. If you are listening now, this is a good time to let your eyes close completely. The story will continue whether you listen or not. Food was prepared slowly. A pot warmed above the flames. Water heated gently. Simple ingredients were added without hurry. The smell rose softly into the night air, familiar and comforting. Stir, pause, stir. The rhythm of cooking matched the rhythm of breathing. Eating followed the same slow pace. Bowls were passed carefully. Food was taken calmly. Chewing was unhurried. No one rushed to finish. After eating, bowls were placed aside. Hands were wiped slowly. Fires were adjusted, made smaller, quieter. The village felt wrapped in warmth and calm. Elders remained seated, gazing into the flames. They saw nothing special there, just movement, light, and rest. Fire was not entertainment. It was presence. Children began to drift toward sleep. Heads nodded. Bodies leaned. Breathing deepened. No one forced them to lie down. Sleep arrived on its own. If your thoughts are fading now, if the words feel distant, that is exactly how this part is meant to work. The night sounds returned. Crickets. A distant animal call. The soft whisper of wind. Each sound appeared briefly, then faded, leaving space behind. People wrapped themselves in simple coverings. Mats were unrolled. Sleeping spaces were prepared without ceremony. One by one, people lay down. Breathing slowed. Movement stopped. The fires dimmed further. Only embers remained, glowing softly, barely lighting the edges of the village. The sky overhead filled with stars again, wide and patient. 5,000 years ago, nights returned gently, without resistance. And now? As the village slips fully into rest, you can allow yourself to follow. There is nothing left to do. The fire is low. The day is complete. The night has arrived. Only small embers remained, glowing softly beneath a layer of ash. Their light was faint, barely enough to show shape or movement. The warmth lingered gently, slowly releasing itself into the night air. The village was asleep. Completely, bodies rested without effort. Breathing moved in slow, steady waves. Chests rose and fell gently, as if guided by the earth itself. No one was awake. No one needed to be. Deep night had arrived. This was the quietest part of the day. The moment when even thoughts seemed to dissolve. The land felt still, but not empty. full of quiet presence. The sky above was vast. Stars rested in familiar patterns, moving slowly, patiently. Clouds passed now and then, soft and thin, drifting without purpose. The river continued to flow. It did not sleep. It did not hurry. Water slipped past stones it had known for generations. The sound was low, constant, comforting, like a breath that never stopped. Animals slept too. Birds tucked their heads beneath feathers. Dogs curled into tight, warm shapes. Creatures of the forest rested where they were hidden. Everything trusted the night. If you are listening now, you do not need to focus on these words. Let them wash over you. Let them fade in and out. Your body knows what to do. In this deep night, the people believed the world repaired itself. The ground cooled. The air balanced. The body healed quietly. Muscles loosened. Small pains softened. The mind released its grip on the day. Dreams moved gently. Not vivid. Not demanding. Just soft images, soft feelings. Drifting like mist through an open field. Some dreams had no images at all. Just rest. Just darkness. Just calm. Time felt distant. There were no hours here. No counting. No waiting. Only a long, uninterrupted stillness. The village did not feel separate from the land anymore. It felt absorbed into it. Huts, people, fire, earth, all blended together into one quiet presence. Silence deepened. Even the smallest sounds faded quickly. The night accepted them and then returned to stillness. If your breathing is slow now, if your body feels heavy, that is perfect. This part of the story is meant to let everything sink. The embers cooled further. Red faded to dark. Dark faded to nothing. Night held everything gently. 5,000 years ago. This was the deepest rest. The part of the night when nothing was expected, nothing was required, nothing was remembered. And now, you can rest here too. There is no movement. No effort. No need to stay awake. Only deep night. Only calm. Only sleep. The night continued. Not forward. Not backward. It simply continued. There was no clear moment to mark how long the village had been asleep. Time had loosened its shape. It no longer moved in lines or circles. It spread out softly, like darkness itself. The village rested deep within the land. Huts were still. Paths were empty. Fires were gone completely. Only the faint memory of warmth remained in the earth. Every person slept. Not lightly. Not restlessly. Deeply. Breathing was slow and steady. Each breath rose and fell without effort. Bodies had settled into the ground, into woven mats. Into familiar shapes they had known all their lives. In this part of the night, people believed the world was most honest. No masks. No effort. No roles to play. Only rest. The air was cool but gentle. It moved occasionally, brushing past skin, then passing on. It did not linger. It did not disturb. The river flowed. It always flowed. Water moved around stones that had not shifted in thousands of years. The sound was low, constant, nearly forgotten by those who slept, but still present, still holding the land together. If you are listening now, you do not need to follow this story. You do not need to imagine clearly. Let the words soften. Let them blur. Let them become part of the background. This is the middle of the night. Nothing happens here. And that is why it is safe. Stars moved slowly across the sky. Not quickly enough to notice. Not slowly enough to stop. They simply drifted. Keeping time for no one. Clouds passed quietly. Sometimes they covered the stars completely. Sometimes they revealed them again. The sky changed without anyone watching. Animals slept. Creatures of the forest curled into stillness. Birds remained tucked away, unmoving. Even insects quieted for long stretches, allowing silence to deepen further. Silence was not empty. It was full. Full of breath, full of rest, full of slow, invisible balance. The people believed that during these hours, the body repaired itself without help. Bones strengthened, muscles released. The mind untangled itself gently. No thinking was required. Dreams drifted quietly. Some dreams were nothing more than soft darkness. Some were faint feelings, warmth, safety, familiarity. Some were images that faded before they could be held. No one chased them. No one needed to remember. Forgetting was part of rest. A child shifted slightly in sleep, then became still again. An elder exhaled slowly, deeply, as if releasing years of weight. An adult turned gently, finding a more comfortable position without waking. The night accepted all movement and returned to stillness. Time became wide, so wide it almost disappeared. There were no hours now. No before, no after, only this long, quiet stretch. The land itself seemed to breathe. Soil cooled slowly. Leaves rested without motion. Trees stood patient and unmoving. Roots beneath the ground held firm, quietly supporting everything above. If your body feels heavy now, let it be heavy. If your thoughts are fading, let them fade. This story is not meant to be followed. It is meant to be felt, softly, then not at all. The people trusted this night. They did not fear it. Darkness was not an enemy. It was a blanket. It covered everything equally. It asked nothing. The village blended into the land completely. Edges softened. Shapes disappeared. Boundaries faded. Huts became shadows. Shadows became ground. Ground became part of the night. Even memory loosened. Names faded. Faces blurred. Stories dissolved. Only breathing remained. In this deep night, there was no past to revisit and no future to prepare for. Those ideas belonged to daylight. Here, there was only rest. The river continued. Always the river. Its movement was the only constant sound. Though even that seemed quieter now, as if it too respected the depth of night. Water carried reflections of stars that no one saw. They shimmered briefly, then passed on. Everything passed on. Without resistance. If you are drifting now, if you are half asleep or fully asleep, that is exactly where this part of the story wants you to be. The middle of the night did not rush toward morning. It stretched. Long. Wide. Endless. The people slept through it without awareness. And so can you. No effort is needed. No attention is required. Just let go. The night holds everything safely. 5,000 years ago, this was the deepest rest humans knew. And tonight, it can be yours too.